It's time to get started. I know Shay has a ball game, and she's had a coach that has dropped out, and she's having to take the whole responsibility now. So I think she is not going to be able to be with us. I have not haven't heard from anybody else, but you're here, and that's what counts. And so we're going to move on. Want to let me just talk about where we are with evidence 5, the CAAP. Now this week, you should be bringing all of this to closure by the end of the week. Now, is everybody at a place? If you haven't submitted it yet, and many of you have submitted it, you've got your scores back and you've done extremely well with it. Anybody that has not, are you at a place where by the end of the week, you should be okay to have all your work in there, get it to me? I need to just look at all 4 put together, and then so that you can get it to the turn-it-in process. But I would love by Sunday night to have you cleared with everything to go to task stream, if that applies to you. Like I said, many of you, about half of you, have finished already. So is everybody okay with what you're supposed to do to finish out with the CAAP? Everybody good? Remember, make sure that if you're finishing up with task 4, and I think, except for a couple, I think I've heard from everybody on task 4. Make sure that you're consistently identifying those 5 areas from the teacher working conditions survey. And I will tell you, when it went to the evaluator, me coming back and telling you to do that, the scores have proven it's made a difference with every one of you. So, you know, I'm glad we had that conversation early on, and that we got that finished. What I want to do now is I'm going to share my screen so that let me see. Let me pull this. Let's look at what this week is going to look like, and you can find this under session 5 as well. But this is what this tonight is going to look like. We're going to have a discussion about your assignment 4. And before I even go any further, I want you to look at this. This is what your assignment said. It says from Glickman, chapter 6, explain the concept of the Johari window and why it would be important for a school leader to know thyself. And I want to hear from you. I don't want to do all the talking. First of all, who can tell me just briefly what is the Johari window? Does anybody know the history of it? Can anybody talk about that? Shame on you. You should be able to talk to me about that. Let's look at this.
I think Sasha has her hand up.
Okay, Sasha, talk.
Well, I know it was a psychological term, and like summing it up in my own words, it's more or less how you are perceived and how you see yourself. So okay. What do you think about yourself? What does somebody else see about you? What do you both see about you? And then the unknown is what I understood of it from the readings and activities this week.
Okay, that's good. That's a good synopsis. Let's look at this. And this is actually one of the links quit working in what I had put under week 4, but I went and found this. And so I've replaced it as of this afternoon with this, and it's very similar to what was there. And links will die sometime, and that's what happened. But this is a model for self-awareness. And remember, I told you that a lot of what you were doing in 605 was giving you a chance to reflect on yourself, as an aspiring leader, looking at yourself, understanding yourself. The Johari Window was developed in 1955 by Joseph Luft and Harry Ingham, and it can be used to develop self-awareness of your own reactions and responses, as well as increasing awareness of how you are when in relationship with others. Again, how you perceive yourself, as Sasha says, and then how others see you. And there was a frame, and you remember it was like a window pane. And then let's look at this. You may not can read this, but it says, although the Johari window was originally used within the workplace for developing better relationships, this author says, I think it can usefully be transposed to psychotherapy by helping to describe different aspects of relating, which can be used to engage with personal development. And as leaders, we should always be looking at how can we better improve ourselves. And then as leaders, you should always provide opportunities and experiences so that the people that are under your leadership can understand and improve themselves. And your job as a leader is to help them improve, help them understand how to improve. This model describes 4 aspects of relationships with self. These include aspects of ourselves that we are open about. We don't care that who knows it? Those elements we keep to ourselves, as well as the aspects of ourselves that others are aware of, but we're not. And those parts of ourselves that are buried in the subconscious. Again, and this talks about the open self, the private self, the unseen self, and the undiscovered self. Okay, and I could go into all of that, but I'm not. What I want to do is, I want to come back. I'm going to take this out, and then I want to come back up to, first of all, I want somebody else. Sasha has spoken, so I want somebody else. First of all, why would you even take the time to spend time looking at something like the Johari window or any other instrument that's out there? What's the rhyme and reason for it? What's the purpose?
Well, I think it's important to think about how others perceive you, and not in that it should always influence your actions, but in that if we're not self-aware of how our staff sees us, of how our parents see us, then there's oftentimes when we could be offending, or we could be unnecessarily aggressive, or we could be just completely misunderstood, which leads to a lot of communication and logistical errors.
Okay, very, very good, Emma. Let's look at what it says. Why would it be important for a school leader, and notice it's in parentheses, to know thyself? Okay, let's go back. Let's go back. Emma, you have alluded to some of that. Somebody else. Why is it important as a school leader to know thyself? What does that mean?
I mean, realistically, we're working with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities, and we can't always assume that how we perceive things and how we deduce things and how we deal with things, that our staff is going to be able to do it the exact same way. We gotta also understand that different people perceive things different ways. I could say something to one person one way, and they could take it a completely different way than how I meant it. So knowing certain things about yourself and how you come off will be beneficial in that regard.
And that's good, Stephen, because that's exactly what the Johari window is about, because you just said it. You may say something and you don't even know that somebody else is perceiving it another way. So that is, that's that blind self. That's that blind understanding. So it's important as leaders to be able to be reflective yourself, but it's also you need to surround yourself with people that you can trust that can tell you about things that maybe you can't see, and you can take it and improve with it and not take it personally. I've had people to tell. One of the things that I can remember, and I'm pretty flamboyant when it comes to. I get excited about things, and I can't hide my emotions that well. I can't always have the poker face that I need. I've learned over the years to do better, but I can remember when I was a high school principal, and it was not something. And this goes back to that cognitive dissonance that I want us to talk about in just a second. I had two of my teachers that I called on religiously to do about anything that needed to be done, because I knew they do it well. But we had our walkie-talkies, and I was number one because I was the principal, and one of my assistant principals was number two on the walkie-talkie, and another assistant principal was number three on the walkie-talkie, and we went on down the thing. But she said that there were times that she, as much as she respected me, and they said as much as they respected me, and I was a pretty easygoing person, she said that there were occasions when, based on how I sounded on the walkie-talkie, they were scared to come to the office and speak to me. And I didn't know that about me. They could hear my frustration, or they could hear the tone of my voice was, although sometimes that's important, you have to do it as a leader, but I didn't want that to be how I was perceived. So based on them telling me that, I tried to work on being better at that, so that they didn't hear what they thought they heard, because that really was not who I was, but it was coming across that way. Let's talk about cognitive dissonance.
Hey, Dr. Studman, I'm sorry, right quick too. I think it's important to know it too, because as a leader, if you're trying to influence who's under you to act and do and perceive, so you know what I mean, in different situations, but you as a leader aren't handling yourself like that too, it'd be hard to get that buy-in and get your school culture to feed what you want to do too. So I think that's another important aspect.
Absolutely. Well said, Sasha. But let's talk about, all of you gave some examples, good examples of cognitive dissonance. Who would like to share, leaders that you have worked with, and, examples of cognitive. Let's talk about that, because we learned from each other, and all of you had something different to say. Who would like to share their example of cognitive without me having to call you out?
I'll go.
Okay, good.
I think my main example was, I had a principal about 12 years ago, and he would come off so condescending, because he would tell me to do something, but his facial expression was always more harsh, and he was unaware of how he was being read by the teachers. Like we talked before about, crossing your arms and kind of stomping your foot, or just seeing like you're being impatient when you're trying to give directions to somebody. It reads that way.
You're exactly right. Was anybody ever able to speak with him, Rebecca, and make him aware of it, or?
He ended up moving to the high school, and I think he's in a different role where now he can delegate, because he has like 5 assistant principals. So I think the pressure was in a different place for him, and he's grown, and now he waves at me. So
Okay,
I think we've all grown as people.
That's great. But somebody else share their example of cognitive dissonance.
I did with mine. Mine's kind of current right now with my principal that I'm working under. We don't have an assistant principal, so she's it. And I had put that when you go in to talk with her, she doesn't give off the vibe that you can really approach her and talk with her. She's usually multitasking. She's doesn't feel like you're getting a listening ear from her. And I just put like, she's so accustomed to multitasking that she can be perceived as not giving that listening ear and feel like you're being supported. And that's difficult because if you're off doing something else, that means you're not taking in what's truly the problem for your staff.
You're exactly right, Erica. And I can bring that home. I sit in my recliner a lot of times at nighttime, and that's when I'm grading work, or I'm reading the news online, or I'm doing something, and then my wife will say something and she'll ask a question. Well, I'm listening, but I'm still okay. She'll stop, and I'll look up, and I say, "Okay, I'm listening." She says, "No, you're not listening." And I said, "I really am." I said, "But I understand." She wants the eye contact. She wants my full attention. And so what I have to do is I have to remember to lay the computer down, and I have to turn around and I have to focus and do, and I'm trying to work, even at this stage in our lives, I'm trying to refocus and to make sure that, and that I'm doing the right thing even at home. And we all have to remember that. And I'm guilty of it even in the office now. I, like you said, I'm multitasking, and somebody will come by the door, and I know that if I stop my train of thought, I've got to go back and I've got to figure it all out again. But that person needs my attention. So I'm having to realize that sometimes I'll say, give me 5 minutes and let me finish this, and then I'll be right with you. And that way I can give them. So you might need to do that as a leader. You might need to say, so that you can, will you give me 5 minutes, or will you give me 3 minutes? Let me finish this up, and then you stop. But you're right. When they come to the door, come to the office door, you need to make sure that you give them that 2 or 3 minutes that they need. It's important. And that no matter how busy you are as a leader, we don't need to give off those vibes. And again, I've been doing this a long, long time. Dr. Revis, I'm sure you can chime in on this as well. I'm sure that that you've been guilty of it as well, haven't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I always like to have an open door policy, as far as I was never one to shut my door to get work done. I don't know why. I just felt like that I needed to be present. And so in having my door open, I'm working and people come by, like Dr. Stebbin, you said, and you have to have some time to get that report in the superintendent is expecting you to do, and balance that with being accessible to your staff. And it's hard to make that balance, but when people come in and sit down and need your attention, obviously you need to take a moment to give them your attention.
Let me answer Michael on this. And you're right. And another thing to just be careful is, and I'm guilty of it too, is you got a million things on your plate. In fact, I did it this afternoon. After I got home, I was tired. I didn't want to talk to one more person. I was ready to sit down for a few minutes, and I didn't want, and the phone rang, and I said, "Oh God." And it was one of my best buddies and works for me, and he was my superintendent at one time. He's now working part-time with me, and he just works so hard with. So I took a deep breath and I answered the phone. I said, "What's up?" And he actually was attending a meeting for me tonight that I couldn't attend. But he heard it in my voice. He said, "Are you all right?" I said, I really am all right. I says, I'm just tired. But, you know, he heard it in my voice. And after I hung up, it bothered me so badly because I don't want people to hear that in my voice. But we're human too, and we can't help it sometimes. But if it had to happen to anybody, I'd rather it be with him, you know, because he's been right where I am, and he fully understands. But you know, that was a weak moment. But like I said, I just had that this afternoon. So when we answer the phone, we just need to be careful that before we even pick it up, take a deep breath and try to make sure that your tone of voice and what you say comes out in the right way on the other end, you know, on that. Somebody else, cognitive dissonance examples. This is something you've lived.
Dr. Salmon.
Hey, Nari.
Hey, I'm sorry I'm late. I'm still at school. I just want to say, I want to add to, I guess, something that you were saying, and it's me personally, and this is what I've had to deal with pretty much all my life. I was born and raised in DC.
Mm-hmm.
The personalities compared to the South are different.
You're exactly right.
We are very mind your business, stay over there. I'm okay, you're okay, we're okay. Well, when I first moved to the South, my facial expressions, they tell everything. And I might not be having a bad day, but because I'm not walking around and I'm not bubbly and I'm not smiling and I'm not doing all of these things, it's, oh, she's hard to work with. She's just, I don't know about her. I don't know if I want to work with her. My thing has always been, talk to me. Don't just take my facial and don't just assume that I'm a person that you can't get along with because you're looking at my face. Okay. I'm not always going to be smiling. I'm serious. I'm always serious. I'm about my business. That's just who I am. But Stephen can tell you, I mean, like, I'm a good person. But if you walk into my classroom, you're not going to see me like bubbly and over the top and stuff like that. That's just not who I am. But I have had the experience where I've had administrators. I had an administrator who told me, "Oh, you know what? You're not nurturing." What? What do you mean I'm not nurturing? I said, "Oh, because I'm not huggy and touchy-feely with the kids and all that stuff." He's like, "Yeah, you're just not nurturing." Well, by the end of the school year, he came to me and he apologized. And he said, "Your main concern at the end of the day are your students." Right. He said, and I apologize. He said, "I get it." I said, everybody doesn't nurture the same.
Right. And that was going to be my follow-up with that, Nari. Mm-hmm. What you've got to offer is a strength if you use it. Again, that goes back to know yourself. You know yourself. You know who you are. But you also know that you're going to be in environments where, as you know yourself, people are going to expect differently. And as a leader, sometimes we have to yield to those. We have to come out of our comfort zones. So as you know yourself, it doesn't mean that makes you a weaker person or you're giving up who you are. You've just got to know that in some environments when to step out of your comfort zone and to be that you can come back into your, because I think who you are, and that's strong, especially working with middle graders and high school, that to me that is a plus. That is a plus. But let's say that you were your first job that you were, and you don't know that they put you at an elementary school and you've got to get down there with those pre-K students and those kindergartners. Can't you see how that would cause you to have to probably rethink some about who you are, and you would have to recondition some of that?
That's where I was when I got the comment.
Okay.
I taught elementary school for 7 years. In elementary school.
You understand
It's-
what I'm saying, don't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. And it is something that I guess I need to work on. My husband tells me the same thing, but it's kind of like I feel like I'm faking it and I feel like I'm being ingenuine. Like,
Well, sometimes we are. I
okay.
mean, we really are, because I mean, I know who I am, and so sometimes I have many times put on that poker face to be what I needed to be, and you learn that as educators. But for the most part, you can be who you are, and given time, people do learn and respect who you are once they know you really care and that you're genuine in that. So, I would say you don't have to change who you are, but be aware of who you are and recondition as you need to based on the circumstances. And I think I think that's what you were saying, that and we all should have our own self-improvement plans. You already got yours. You've mapped yours out already. You done said it tonight.
Yeah.
Somebody else. That was good though, Nari. Thank you. Somebody else. These are good. The reason I want to share all of this, these are the things that you need to be aware of in others, but more importantly now, and again, I'm going to come back to Nari, we need to know it about ourselves. We need to know it about ourselves and understand ourselves, because those things that we know, it gives us an opportunity to better prepare ourselves for, the jobs and the roles that we're moving into. Anybody else right now?
And kind of tying off what Nairi was saying, I mean, as you're doing this, also be aware of cultural differences. I'm from New Jersey, so coming down south too, I just walk in and people, you can't speak, you don't know how to say hi. Back up north, same, like Nairi was saying, I'm in my lane, you in your lane. We pass by, we say hey, we don't, we go about our business. Right. But down here, like you to announce yourself, speak, make sure you say hey to everybody in the room.
It's
so that was yeah.
Like going through the McDonald's line. Thank you, baby. Thank you, sweetheart. Honey, this, baby, that's those are terms of endearment, in the South. Some people are offended by that, but I will tell you, I've a lot of Northern people that have acclimated to the South. Those are some of the characteristics that they've learned to love, because it is so different. That's who we are. I have to be careful all the time. I mean, here, it's a wonder that I have not been charged, because, sweetheart, will you do this for me? Or, I am notorious for that. And, I've had to be careful in the workforce not to. Luckily, I have worked, in my county. No, everybody, you have to still be careful. But I just work with people that they've accepted it. But it's a wonder I haven't gotten in trouble, because I am notorious for. I'm truly Southern when it comes to those kinds of things. So guilty. Yeah, Dr. Revis, anything you'd like to say in closing up with this assignment?
Well, if we could get into somebody else's mind and know how they perceive us, wouldn't we all be better people? I guess one thing I would say is, read your audience, read their body language. And I know you do that. You do that with students all the time. When you're teaching for understanding, we are very adept at reading their facial expressions and their body language. And I just say, you've got to do that with the adults you work with too. Just be aware of how they are perceiving you. And, there's nothing wrong. I think Nairi was just telling people, I know I come across this way, but that's just who I am. But that's not the way I feel. I am compassionate. I am caring, I am nurturing, but you may not see that on my face all the time. So anyway,
Yeah,
this is a great exercise.
it is. It is. And again, these are opportunities to really to reflect on who you are. And it's obvious that you are based on, on our comments and discussions, and then, on the narrative work that you've provided me with. Let me pull this back up. Let's look at, and some of you have already done this. Let's look at our assignment for, this is for this week. From the Glickman Chapter 9, you're to write a one-page response identifying your strengths and weaknesses, on the supervisory behavior continuum. And again, that is an opportunity to self-reflect. And this is, you're basing this on where you are now. I promise you, you could do the same thing a year after you become an administrator. You could, at the end of that year, you could come back, and I guarantee you some of this would change. And 3 to 5 years down the road, it will really change as you grow into leadership. But take time and really do a good job on this and reflect on it, and make it really apply to you. And I look forward to us talking about that next week. So any question? Oh, and make sure that you're not waiting until the last minute, as I said last week, to be reading and understanding the requirements for the strengths-based leadership book. There's a lot of work that goes with this. Dr. Revis, we'll be in week 6 next week. Probably, well, I tell you what, that that week that I've got to be gone, that probably is going to be a good time for you to talk about that last assignment.
Right. And one of the things that I was wondering, Dr. Stedman, I'd like to get into their portfolios, their competency folio, and see kind of where they are. So now that we're finishing up with the CAAP, is there any way we could require or request, whatever, them to at least upload a few artifacts in the competency folio from your CAAP? And that way, once you do that and request review for me, then I have access to your folio. Otherwise, I don't have access to them.
Okay,
Would
let's
that
do
be-
this. Let's do this. Let's go to your, I mean, you've had to do it twice already. You should have. So let's go to your competency folio, and let's everybody just put something in there, if it's not but one thing, and send it to Dr. Revis. Send it to her so that she can have access to your folio, so she can begin looking at it, because we can't wait till the last minute to get this stuff done. So
Yeah, I'd like to
everybody,
just start working. Yeah.
yeah, let's do this. In fact, let's do that as soon as you can this week for her. Okay. Everybody got that? You know what to do. At least one thing submitted in there, and submit it to Dr. Revis so that she will have access to your folio, so she can begin looking at things. Okay. Let's let me pull this up. I want to. Okay, now again, everybody knows what they've got to do by the end of this week. I want everybody clear with the CAAP by Sunday night. If you've not given me task 4 yet, then I need task 4 as soon as you can. Tomorrow, possibly no later than Friday, so that I can go ahead and for you to, everybody don't wait until Sunday night at 9 o'clock and submit task 1 through 4 for my review. I should see 1 through 4 combined before Sunday so that we can go ahead and I can tell you at a minimum to put it into the turn it in process if that applies to you. Like I said, about half of you have already finished it. So if this applies to you, let's do that. Let's look at very quickly. Some of you have already finished task 1 of the SIAP, but let's just for review purposes, just remember that task 1 is called the school data project. And when you look at school data project, that means that you're looking at a lot of test scores, you're looking at statistics, you're looking at a lot of stuff about the students at the school, because remember, this is all about a lot of what we did to begin with was all about the student. But this, again, in this data project, remember, this tells you specifically what you've got to do, but then remember, I said at a minimum that you must have these headings, you must talk about it, and you must show it in with some visuals as well. What does attendance look like at your school? What does discipline look like at your school? The standardized test results, benchmark test results, and then any other data that's going to tell the story of your school. And then this tells you how you're supposed to do that. But then remember, I told you in red, this tells you where you can go find most of that information is there. The APSL task 1 through 3 and the OMA task 1 through 2, the CAAP task 1 through 2, that's where you can find most of that information. Now, does that mean that you can't put new stuff in there? Absolutely not. If there's new data that needs to go in there, new information, you put it in there. You update it to make it relevant if that's what you need to do. Remember, I said that you could copy and paste a lot of this stuff, but you don't just copy and paste and just put it there and you move on. It's got to have a rhyme or reason for being there. If you need to precede what you've put there with a narrative to better understand why it's there, and there has to be a flow. It's like reading a story, when I look at it, it needs to make sense. But everything that you need, for the most part, can be found when you go back here and you just add your flair to it with the narrative work and with the connecting sentences that you will put in there. Then you go to task 2. Again, you've seen this 100 times. Teacher working condition survey analysis project. In fact, you just got through with this with the CAAP. Or advanced ed or Cognia as it's called in North Carolina and South Carolina now. North Carolina is now Cognia, Dr. Ravis. I didn't know that until this week, but our own school system is going through system-wide Cognia in the spring. So now North Carolina and South Carolina are both using Cognia. In task 2, you will continue leading your team of professional educators in an analysis of the elements of the teacher working conditions survey. Now, this is an opportunity to go back and to resurvey. And remember, we said that if you resurvey, you look at what your most recent or the data that you're there. The newest teacher working condition survey was, the results of that was just released. So I would include that information in there. You need to show updated information with that. And then if you need to resurvey, this is an opportunity to say, okay, I'm going to pick 3 to 5 questions from the teacher working condition survey that stood out the most as being probably the ones that were the weakest for the school. And, you know, go back and just pick you a survey group and send it out and just kind of see what do the results look like now versus what they look like then. And again, remember I said that if administration has changed, then, you know, that automatically should show different results. If it's like Nari changed schools. When she first did it, she was at one middle school. She's at another middle school now. You know, there's lots of ways you could approach that, Nari. You could say, you know, about, you know, you're now at a new school and these are the results of the survey. And you know, you've got a principal now that was not there when the other survey was done. So you've got an opportunity to look at your principal now with 4 or 5 good questions versus what it was like when the other principal was there. You know, so there's opportunities to do that. It will be different for many of you based on your circumstances. And this is where you can find stuff. The CAAP task 1 through 4 that you just finished, and the SIAP task 1 prompt 2. Now, this is the one that I want to talk about this evening, task 3, focus group project. Focus group project. Now, if it's a group project, that means you're going to be working with what? Some people. You're going to be working with some people. What you're going to do with task 3, you're going to assemble a team of stakeholders. And these people are going to represent both the internal and external school communities. Now, I'm going to give you some hints. If you've got every one of you should have a school improvement team. Your school improvement team should have a parent representative on there. That is an example of a team that you could work with. Another is you could pull your chairperson for the school improvement team. You could pull a parent liaison from somewhere. You could pull your booster club president. You could pull, you know, you could pull a focus group. Does not have to be. You could pull 5 people together from different, the external and internal community, inside the school and outside the school. So you could, a faith-based person from the community. You could pull 5 people together and you could come up with a series of questions and you could have an interview with this group. And you would record their responses and you would talk about that in this test. There's lots of ways that you can send a survey out to your group. But anyway, this is qualitative research. And this is on the findings of the work that you've done from task 1 and task 2, the school data project and the working conditions survey project. You want to talk to them about these are the results, and you want them to give you some you know, based on what you found, you want them to talk to you about it. You want to talk, you know, and just be honest, be very transparent with them, and then your response, your work on this project is not what you think, is exactly what they tell you. So this project is not about what you think, it's about what somebody else thinks and what they tell you. Okay. And again, your focus could be It could be your PLC that you're working with now, adding another person or two with it if you need to make sure that you've got that. So there's a variety of ways that you can do this. And this is where you can find information that you need for task 3. As you're putting the information, the skip task 1 prompts 1 and 2, the skip task 2, and there's only 1 prompt, and then the CAAP, the whole CAAP gives you information that you can use with this task. Okay, I'm going to stop share, and I'm going to let you ask me questions now about anything at this point. I'm not going to go any further about task 1, 2, or 3 of the SIAP. Ask me anything. Oh, that's quiet. That scares me almost. Does it make sense? Do you understand? Let's go back to task 1. Does task 1, some of you have already cleared, but for everybody else that has not, does task 1, what you've got to do, does it make sense, what I've said? Give me a thumbs up if it does. Okay. Task 2. Are there any questions about task 2? Everybody good? What I just said about your focus group, remember, it's the work you've done in task 1 and task 2 that you're going to focus on with a group of people, internal and external, for task 3. You're going to share with them what you found out in task 1, what you found out in task 2, all the stuff you've been doing over the past year. You're going to tell it to them. You're going to talk about it. And you're going to say, what do you think? And you're going to talk about it. You're going to share it with them. You're going to proof of you sharing it with them. And then you're going to actually, their perceptions of things is the qualitative research, what they think about it as stakeholders in the school. Okay. Everybody good on that? Okay, everybody good for next week now? You know what you got to do for this week. Finish up with the CAAP, work on that assignment 5 and do a good job on that behavior continuum. And then, you know, several of you are already at the SIAP stage. The others need to be able to get there. You've got, what is it, somebody? Okay, I'm going to ask Arius, what's the one thing that you've got to do for Dr. Revis this week, all of you?
Upload an art back into task screen.
Task screen, yes, that's right, for your, so that she can get into your competency folio and begin looking at things. Okay. Everybody good on that?
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
I just uploaded an artifact while we were discussing, and when I requested comments, I just clicked like the one that I had uploaded. Did I need to go back and request comments on all of it for you to see all of them?
No,
or just the
no.
one?
Dr. Revis,
Okay.
open up Emma's now. See if it, while we hear it, see if that worked. Thank you for going ahead and doing that, Emma. This gives us a chance to clarify anything if there is a problem right now.
And I have not even gone on to see if I have access to it. So
But you should.
I should. Let's see, these guys started in the spring, right?
Spring of 2022, yeah, spring. You should, because I have access to, I can go into task stream and look at,
Just give me a minute. It kicked me out.
I think I can look at their scores, in task stream, and I can grade like the competency, I mean, the school event disposition and stuff like that. So I haven't tried the other.
This is section C4 or C8, Dr. Steadman?
C4 and C6. They're in two different sections because some were with you. If they were with you, Emma was with you, so she would be in C4. Those that were with Dr. Hamilton were in C6. So when I go into task stream, I have two different sections in there because that's how they started out.
Right. Okay, I can see their grades now. Let me go back and go to reviewer. I was in the wrong mode. I see Emma's. She has requested comments.
Okay.
That
So-
worked.
So all you've got to do is put it in there and listen, don't make sure you click only one, because if you don't, it'll cause her to have to request comments on all 21. Please don't do that to Dr. Revis. Only do one just to let her get in there at this point, okay? So she doesn't
I have
have
a
to,
question for Emma.
go ahead.
So Emma, did you put in like a new narrative and artifact, or you just requested comment?
I put in, so for the CAAP, I did the emotional intelligence one for the CAAP, because that was one of the ones that requires a CAAP competency or a CAAP artifact. So I did that one, and I just typed in my narrative and submitted the artifact.
Okay.
So it was CAAP
That would
specific.
do. Thank you.
Yeah.
And let me just say this, guys, if you are finished up with the CAAP and have a good solid start on the SIAP, go ahead and put any of those artifacts in there from the CAAP. Let's knock that out. But at least do one so I can access it, and I will try to get in there and do a little mini audit and see where you are.
Yeah.
Hopefully you're up to date, except for evidences from the CAAP and the SIAP. Hopefully.
Yeah. That's good. Any more questions? Any more? Thank y'all. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I always am. Always am. I love talking with you. Even though I fuss at you, and even though I push you with those grades, and some of you know what you owe me, I make it real with you. Fix what you got to do. Get it to me. I still love you. Okay. Thank you for being so open with me about things. And Nari, I really appreciate, your openness with those being transparent like that. That really means a lot. And that honestly, that helps us as individuals when we can talk about it. So thank you for sharing that. Okay. And Mary, we're gonna say a prayer for you. It's gonna be good. Yeah. Call us if you need us, Mary.
Okay, will do. Thank you.
Okay. You are welcome. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.